You're not gonna start with your music, are you? Don't do that. Don't do that.
You're such a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A little
Oh,
kombucha
hey,
for you.
that is good stuff. Is that the pink? Is it the apple one?
Yeah, pink apple.
That's a
Yeah, pink
good one.
lady apple.
Yes.
You guys are
That's
so
right.
cute.
All right.
So if I burp, excuse me.
All right. Yeah. Breaking news. I am going to start with the theme song. At least we have a theme song. What's your guys' theme song?
No, the point is, it's so Deuce centric. Like, can Mo get a line, bro? Like, come on, man.
Again, I
That
didn't
is my
sing it. I did not sing it. So it's not me.
You know, the funny thing is, what start this thing, man. So
Okay.
I mean, this is what we do.
No, we're starting it now. We're acting. You know what? I didn't play the music. We're starting this now.
Damn.
What's up, Dougie? It's the last time we had you on the podcast was before King season. It was in December.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. It's been that long, huh?
Wait, was that when we were talking about DiVincenzo?
No, we had him on in the summer after the DiVincenzo deal that we thought was happening, and then we had him on right before the season, literally the week of. God, a lot's happened. We'll talk about that, but I feel like we have to start with probably the coolest news, and that is the fact that two people really close to you are going to the Hall of Fame. Rick Adelman, your former head coach, C-Webb going in, and hearing those conversations you had with him on your radio show with Jason Ross. Doug, I don't think people understand, like, outside Sacramento, the bond that you guys had as like teammates, but literally the bond you have with the fans here, because I'm listening to those conversations and I had chills.
I know you text me, and I was with you. You guys, it's weird when you get lightning in the bottle the way that we got lightning in the bottle. Like, you get guys from so many different areas, different countries. You think about Rick Adelman and his path, the fact that he was in Portland, makes it to 2 NBA finals, unable to win it. He's with Jeff Petrie. They come here, and all of a sudden they make a couple moves and they're right back into action. But when you talk to Rick and you listen to him talk about how he put stuff together, why he did the things that he did, it is it's incredible, because like a lot of the stuff, Deuce and Mo, that you guys, like when we were standing on the sidelines and we would talk about, a lot of it comes from Rick as I'm speaking and the different things that I'm saying. And he wasn't overly talkative. He didn't yell at you. He didn't cuss you. He didn't do those things, but he got his point across, and the ability to deal with us as players and people in a way. I think when I was talking to him, I said he built a culture that was about love, and it really was in so many different ways that I miss him. It was really good to talk to him. I think that a lot of that came across inside of the interview, I hope. And then when you talk about Webb, like, there were so many times, like, we would come home and it'd be 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning. And he and I, we both lived out. So we would ride together a lot of times, and we would just talk about stuff. It wasn't basketball stuff. It was just life and those type of things. Like, those are the conversations that you miss. But at the same time, like, that's why as soon as I get around him, as soon as I get him, it's like nothing ever left. And then for him and Rick to be able to speak about what, as you just mentioned, Deuce, what Sacramento, what the fans, what they meant, it was an environment that I had never experienced. I don't think they had ever experienced it. Maybe Coach Adelman in Portland, something close, but it was special. The fans, they mean more than ever. Matter of fact, if you guys looked at the most recent playoff games, I think that is the biggest example of what the fans mean to the game of basketball. It makes it different. Well, and I said this, and you guys have heard me say this, like, our fans were so ahead of the curve. We were white hot before Miami. There were so many things that Sacramento, even the style of play, like whatever you want to say about Sacramento and all these jokes and different things, we were like, how many years ago has that been? Was it 20 years, guys? Something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we were 20 years ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. And I give Webb, I give Jay Will and Flotty and Peja and Jeff Petrie and just Coach Adelman. You got to give them credit for the ability to see it and then allow it to happen, and give our fans and this community the love and respect of, they got down in a way that everybody wasn't getting down. And I love them for that.
And that's what's crazy whenever we do talk about the past or whatever, because it's so much more not than what that team did to basketball than just the city. You know, I think that's what some new era fans don't really understand. They're like, oh, you're hanging on to that. Well, no, it's what that time meant to even basketball and to the NBA. And you talk about Rick Adelman and the way that he would connect with you guys. For you, Doug, just personally, what did he do for your career? Like, what did you learn from him that was different, that helped elevate your game, here in Sacramento than from other places you were?
Mo, it's a great question, because I think the reason, and I know you guys got a lot of great fans, but not all of them have been privy to our conversations that we've had. And I've told you guys, and I think you've probably heard it on the radio, is I learned how to play basketball when I came to Sacramento. And I use Kevin Durant as an example because he said the same thing, and I found it really interesting. When he went to Golden State, he said, I learned how to play basketball. There's a difference to being a hooper. That's what I grew up. I was a kid from the streets, grew up street balling, all of that. And I had some, like Coach Asbury of Pepperdine taught me a lot of fundamentals and different things. But now, how do you utilize those fundamentals? How do you put those things into action on the floor, individually and then collectively? That's what Coach Adelman gave me. He gave me the ability to learn those at the NBA level, but then how do I put them into the game? But then take it another level. How do I put them into the game for the betterment of the whole and the team? Because ultimately that was the goal, to win. And many times you've heard me say, I called it basketball nirvana. It was the greatest experience of basketball on the court, but also off the court at the same time, with the ability to laugh and joke, and the redundancy of going through corner in practice can get like, but for us it wasn't, because Vlade's palming the ball and then he's wiggling his finger at you like, no, as you cutting through, and he had faked the pass, like, oh, we're laughing. And then every nuance of the action we knew. So now it's like, as I train, it's like belts in like karate. It's like a black belt. It's like a 10th degree black belt. Well, to do that, you have to experience everything. And Coach gave me all of that, and I thank him for it.
But what about now, all the different personalities, that you kind of talked about that come through, and you see that in this day and age in the NBA, and you go, oh man, that coach can't connect, or that coach can't build that relationship. And we see this as such a relationship-based league now. But I feel like when you look at Rick Adelman, you still saw him as a coach. You didn't see him as your guy's friend or anything. So did everyone just buy in, or what? How did he get through and communicate to some of the people that might have not wanted to understand the game like you did?
Yeah, it's another interesting one, these are the things that made Rick special. And now when I talk and I hear some of the things that come out of my mouth, they're like in the subconscious. And I'm just like, wow, because I heard him the other day on the interview say something that I say all the time is, you cannot, there was a time when I said, get your butt on the line and you do this, and everybody did it. That was different. So the way that Doug Christie processes information is a different way than Deuce Mason and Morgan. Everyone processes differently. Yeah. Like, you might need to slap him. I totally understand that.
Thank you.
Right. So for coach to recognize that and guys, I'm talking 20 years ago. So what I'm saying is, he talked to me different than he talked to Webb. He talked to Webb different than he talked to Mike. He talked to Mike different than he talked to Jay, Will, and Bobby, and so down the line. And what I talk about is analogies, and trying to find the analogy that works for that particular individual, because it's important. If you love them enough to go through and find the way to get to the thing that's going to teach them what you want, then that is the essence of the type of coach that Rick Adelman was. And him recognizing that, I think, is just absolutely special.
You know, thinking about your guys' culture, the award culture is thrown around so often when you talk about a new coach coming in or whatever. It's like, we're going to change the culture, or a GM, hey, we're going to change the culture here. It's so easy to say it. I'm just curious, like, how challenging is it to change a culture? Because obviously the last 15 years in Sacramento has not been great. They haven't made the playoffs in this stretch, and it's painful for a lot of fans. And I know even for you, how is that done? Like, it's not like Rick Adelman came in and goes, okay, we're going to change the culture and here's what we're going to do. It's just about being about it. Like, I don't have the answer to it.
So when you think about culture, you guys, what you gotta, that's the essence, right? So if we're talking about the essence, there has to be a consistency inside of it. So what we're asking is, what are we going to be? And whatever we are, consistent, stay with it, ups, downs, good, bad, the type of people you bring in, the type of teaching that you do, there's a consistency. We knew every day when we went to practice, there were certain things that we did. I used John Wooden for an example. John Wooden had a thing that was called 3 lines. You did it every day. You started in 3 lines on the baseline. He would say, and I'm saying this because my coach, Coach Asbury, this was the exact thing that he did. It was passed down to him. Okay, 50%. So now you're jogging down 50%. Come back 75%. And then we work our way up to 100%. The next one is jump stop, outside pivot, left foot. Jump stop, outside pivot, right foot. Jump stop, reverse pivot. And I hated it. But fundamentally, I just started to improve. Thus, that was the basis of the culture. Now, there's also how you treat people when you walk in the arena. As you know, you guys, I speak to everybody because I think that what we've seen here is we've seen wanting to make the playoffs. That culture that Rick had, that was a championship culture. And there's a difference. And until we get to the level where our goal is always championship, for me, that doesn't work because I experienced something that was totally different. But there was a consistency. And I think that is probably the biggest basis in what it is, because you just walk to something, make a 180-degree turn and walk the other way. And then you stay with that. You don't kind of vacillate here and there and here and there. And if you do, then we find ourselves 15 years in.
I heard you talking on the radio, I think, I don't know when it was, last couple of weeks.
Oh, you listen. I like that.
I listened to Doug. Come on. Okay. You said something about how that the word Kangs that gets thrown around on social media kind of bugs you. And it was the first time I heard that. I thought it was interesting because, you know, obviously you played here. Now you're in this community. It just speaks to your connection that bugs you. Why does that bug you when you see Kangs on social media?
Because you guys knew who the Golden State Warriors were. You knew who a lot of these teams were that weren't that good. And then we vault ourselves to the top of the NBA. We didn't get over the hump. And only because we didn't get over the hump do we not get the respect put on the name properly. Now, there has been a large span from that time till now where things have not gone right, but it's no different than anything else. Like, you got to get some respect put on your name. And I've said the only way that that's going to happen is you got to start smacking people around, and you got to come with a serious attitude. And part of that is like the ups and downs of the team this year. You and I talked about the ability to come out and set a tone and different things. Like, they build themselves up 5 games and won 5 out of 6. And this is the ability to do something. And then they go, and I'm like, what is that? What's going on? Well, that's where the name automatically comes back. It's like a term of like, we're not going to do it. We're going to fail. It's not going to happen. And for me, I don't dig it, man. I want to see better for this team. I think that one thing that, and I spoke to Webb about this, one thing more than anything, like coming back here, you guys, has done for me is I want to see the Kings fans flex, because they've been disrespected for so long. It's a thing. Like, I can't explain it. And probably when they do, I'll be like, all right, let's everybody chill, right? It's like, okay, we've had our moment. Like, let's act like we've been here before, even though we haven't. But the point is that it irks me, man, because when I hear Webb talk about like Shaq and Kobe, rest in peace, like that they told him as much as like they were fearful. I could feel that. The people couldn't see it. We knew we were better than them. I think they knew that we were better than them, but we didn't cross the finish line. And that allows this moniker to come around that just, it irks me. That's all.
And I think it's that. But I also think sometimes too, when you, especially in these last couple of years, you watch this Kings team and you can question effort. You can question heart at times. And that's not good that I can even bring that up way too much over the past few years. And I think that has a lot to do with culture, not even necessarily every individual, not having or wanting to put forth that effort. But right now, you're looking at this first round of playoffs. You're seeing every single team with so much heart, so much determination. Except the Lakers. I'm sorry. Let me sprinkle that one in there with their first game except the Lakers. And, you see that and I just go, God, why? And again, I know it's postseason basketball right now, but you've seen that too consistently with some of these teams. And you go, why can't that be in Sacramento?
Miami. Miami last night getting their asses kicked, and they were playing. I mean, they might have been getting their asses kicked, but they played hard.
And they were at some points, going, okay, we suck right now. So what do we need to do? We need to jab guys. We need to do things that are lightweight dirty, but someone's not going to get hurt. And I know you saw that. And I'm always thinking in my head, when the Kings are down by 20, why aren't they getting like that? And maybe that's where the Kings name comes in too.
I heard Kenny Smith on TNT. I've said this, obviously he has a bigger platform, but listening to him, he said, if you play hard in the NBA, you will win 41 of your games.
Wow.
That to me he is absolutely correct, you guys, because see, out of the 41 that you win, you're going to catch a couple people off. You're going to get 5 or 6 wins just like that. Kings gave up 5 or 6 wins just like that. So, and now if we do the math and you add 5 or 6 wins to where they're at, and it's a thing. It's definitely culture based. It's that you have to make sure, and this goes for everybody, that you're taking pride in what you do. You go about your business. And when I say that, it's also the ability to hold each other accountable in a way that when I'm looking over at Mike and Bobby are looking at me, and then I say something to Webb and Webb says something to Vlade, and Vlade speaks in Serbian to Peja, and all of a sudden we don't take it personally. It's for the betterment of the team and the betterment of the whole. That is it's a must. And I think that is part of the culture that we're talking about is like, yeah, we can go, oh, Luke. Yeah, but Luke's not on the floor.
Right.
I've heard what Luke says to the players. Like, was at practice. I'm like, right on, bro. That's exactly it. It's a thing, and that comes with the players that you get, the culture that you build, the players that you bring in, and how you go about your business. I've said it, like when you're down 8, there's when you're down 10, 15, 20, okay, I'm all up in the camera. Okay, I'm all up in the camera.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how it has to happen, and I'm hoping that that's what we ultimately see from this Kings team.
We talked about Adelman. I want to ask you about Chris. The one thing that you brought up that I'd never thought about was the fact that Chris adjusted his game for the team, where you said, yeah, he could have averaged 30 and 15, and he had some monster years, and his numbers kind of went down a little bit, but it was for the greater good.
Yeah.
I didn't ever think about that with Webb, but when you played with him, what made him so special on the floor?
I think that's part of it, Deuce. I think is the ability, like greatness is like when you're playing against those type of players, and now you can play a game within a game, like, whoa. So like Webb got the ball, and every time like his guy backed off of him or got on him too much, like either or, he could always shoot it. But he didn't. And part of it is because he was willing to manipulate and play the game so that we as a unit won and move forward. And that is probably one of his, I could go to the big hands and the athleticism and the vision and the shooting that he improved upon, and in the post, the half hooks and the power dunks and the catching. Yeah, but it's a bigger, that's the skill set that he had, but then the way he used his skill set was very interesting. And I heard an interview with him, and he was talking about coaching and the fact that Coachy said to him, like, look, Webb, we're going to put you in a place that you're probably going to get a lot of criticism, like kind of like what we're hearing from Anthony Davis. He's shooting the threes, and everyone's like, get in the post, get in the post. Well, he's like, we're going to put you at the elbow. And Webb was in, and he said, all right, I'll play through. Well, all of a sudden, and you guys have heard me say this about Buddy, when Buddy learns to use his superpower for the betterment of the team, and whenever we watched him do it as he improved down the stretch, I thought that all of a sudden, whoa, okay, that is exactly it. So what Webb would do is, there's a back cut, boom, there's a bucket. There's a handoff, nice pick, there's a bucket. Next time, handoff, screen. Now they drop it back to Webb. He's dunking on somebody, and now the game is open. It's just like you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. And the fact that he was willing to do that, because I played with other players that weren't willing, it's like, I'm getting mine, and I don't even know about everything else. But dang, did you guys see the record books? Did you watch the highlights on ESPN? Guess what? The highlights were still on ESPN. He was still an all-star, and we were beating the hell out of people.
Do you think Weber's going to be a GM going forward? I mean, the way that he was talking with you guys the other day, the way that he talked about the game and how he wants to stick in it, it doesn't sound like he wants to necessarily be coaching, but he loves, you know, analyzing talent, obviously. And so I kind of got that vibe, but what do you think?
I think that those are the aspirations that Webb has. And I think that if you look at him, he's pretty much achieved everything that he wants to achieve. I don't see that as anything different, whether it's GM, whether it's ownership, whatever it is. I see him getting in a way that allows him to have a footprint, a thumbprint, a handprint on something. And it's great because you guys, and a lot of people will say, well, that doesn't work. Well, it's worked for some people, and you never know when it is going to work. One thing that I do know about him is he's extremely smart. He understands the game. He has great connections. All the things that he named, those are things that if I am owning or want, they're valuable. There is value in all of that. And yeah, so to answer your question, long-winded, hell yes, I think so.
So this current squad, this is a big offseason, Doug. I don't like to hype things up and like because who knows what's going to happen, but I feel like they have to make the playoffs next year. And you talk about setting championship expectations, and I'm with you on that, like having that approach, that mindset, but they got to end it. You can't have the NBA record. It's an important year with Fox and going into year 5. If you're looking at the squad, like what are some things that you want them to kind of address this offseason, whether it's, hey, Halliburton's got to work on this, Fox needs to do this, or they need this type of player. What's on your list?
I mean, well, if you just start with the backcourt in Fox and Halliburton, I don't really too much worry about Fox, because if we look at his numbers, he's like the stock. He's just continuing to rise. I think that we've saw times in there where the jump shot improved immensely. I thought he took over games defensively. Like, I'm not worried. Halliburton, not either. Like, this is the backcourt of the future, and in many ways, the only thing that I look at with Halliburton is the ability to get to the weight room and start to change his body, like we saw Steph, like we saw Fox, like we saw anybody who comes in as a young player. But it's impressive that even with the slight of build, he was still able to manipulate the game because he did it with his mind and his skill set. The ability for the Kings, like I like what Monte McNair did at the trade deadline. I thought that all the pieces that he brought in were pieces that I particularly would value, meaning two-way players. You got in some dogs, some guys that were going to stand in other people's face. Like when you knock somebody down, Chimezie Metu gets knocked down, nobody says anything. Halliburton gets knocked down, and Terrence Davis is right in dude's face. Like, those are things. It's a must. The ability to compete night in and night out on the defensive end, like, it's easy, Deuce, to like talk basketball and tell you all these different things that I think should go. The reason that, you guys, I say championship is because the things that are required to win a championship are the things that are devoid in the Sacramento Kings currently. If there was a sense of urgency, well, when you're competing for a championship, there's always a sense of urgency. If those were things that were done, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It would be in the playoffs, and it would be over. So, like, breaking down some of the things, I'd like to see continued length on the perimeter. I definitely think the 3-and-D guy is a thing. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Rashawn Holmes. That's going to be a huge one. What are you going to do with Marvin Bagley? Buddy, Harrison Barnes are all names that were talked about around the trade deadline, and the fact that people are having those conversations let you know that obviously there's value there. Are you keeping some? Are you keeping all? Is it a different philosophy when you come back on the defensive side of the ball? We saw improvement towards the end of the year. So what's the missing piece on why, when we're all engaged, why aren't we having that same type of vibe? Now, some of it could be like you bring in a new coach in Rex Kalamian. Well, it's difficult, you guys. When you bring in a new coach and you don't have practice time and he wants you to do certain things, It's like, damn, what do you want me to do? The terminology is there. That's why I thought that we saw these things that go up and down. When the Kings had a chance to practice and Luke and the staff were able to get their hands on them and communicate, normally they came out and they played a way better game. That lets me know that they're coachable and a lot of different things. So with a regular training camp and all those different things, some tweaks here and there, and just solidify the direction. Like I like definability, meaning like you say that this is what it is. Now, at least when we have this conversation, we can judge whether it is that or it's not that. But just kind of ambiguous, like we're just playing basketball, that's like saying we want to make the playoffs. And we continuously don't make the playoffs. We want a championship. When we miss that, we'll end up in the playoffs.
Yeah, because I like the tweaks that were made after the trade deadline and everything. And it seems like there is some individual value on this squad and everything. But then you see teams that, like we've talked about before, like Kenny Smith was saying, if you're that tough team, you can win 41 games. And then you see other teams who play as a complete unit and you buy in. And even if you don't have the best individual stars on your team, you play as a team, you can figure it the hell out. And so that's why with this King squad, I look at the tweaks they made, and I have that faith and that hope that they can do that going into this next season with the regular training camp and all that stuff. But you know, I remember even Deuce, you asked Luke Walton about like, what's your identity? And he felt like they already had this identity of like teams coming in and, you know, knowing that they're going to have to work hard against these Kings. And I didn't personally feel that. So I'm curious if that is what he wants to be, if that is he's putting it out there, because that's what he's saying he wants to be with this team.
Mo, it's an interesting question because I would agree with you. Like, I always say, like, I'm standing on the side of the court, I close my eyes and I open them and I go, that's Kings basketball. And I think personally, Luke has the vision in his head. The problem is, and we need to recognize this is not an excuse, it's a fact. He's been here for 2 years and he hasn't had a training camp.
True.
Like, whoa, like, hello, like, how am I supposed to like, so like some of the things that I'm sure that he wants to do, it takes time. We go back to Adelman now. Every day, you guys, we went in and we would start with like corner and back cut passes, like every day, like pass, cut, layup, pass, cut, jumper, pass, cut, jab, step, jumper, pass, cut, handoff, jab, step, like on and on and on and on to the point where we mastered it so that when it came in front of us, we knew exactly what to do. Well, so first year, no training camp, you fly all the way to India and we try to figure it out on the fly. Next year we have a freaking pandemic and you got a couple of times and you kind of make it to the bubble. So like in Luke's mind, I'm sure this is the style that I want to play and this is how I want to go about it, whether that works or not. That is something, this will be the first time, you guys, that he has the ability to have a real training camp that things can be put in and all of that. And that's why I said definability, because then we can at least say, okay, well, this is what he's saying it is. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it good? Is it not good? What's working? What's not working? It'll also, I think, personally help him. Like, it's going to help the players, but it's also going to help him. Like, is that really working? Is that, can we do those things? Because you kind of see it on the fly. But see, the NBA, you guys, is interesting because like a player can have a hot night and just kind of come out of nowhere. But the ability to have something consistently is the key, and the inability to have consistency is really what Luke has experienced since he's been here. Thus, the players that have experienced the same thing.
It's so interesting to see how everything will play out. You know, I look at other teams around the league. Memphis, I don't look at them and go, they are that much better than Sacramento. But
agreed.
But you know what? We talked about playing hard. That team from Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bain, you know, these guys bring Valanciunas. There's toughness, there's pride out there, and they are winning right now because they're outworking. Like, they outworked the Utah Jazz in game one. Like, I don't Mitchell's not playing. They outworked Dylan Brooks was probably one of the most annoying players you'll watch, but that guy brings it. And it's just like you look at the Kings' individual talent, you go, I like this, I like this, I like this. Now it's like, how does it all come together, and how do you make those tweaks to get that level of engagement?
So it's an interesting thing, you guys. I've talked about this on the radio. The reason that I say, like, you need dogs, or you need somebody to draw a line in the sand. The reason is not because not everyone works that way. Mm-hmm. But you would be surprised as a professional athlete, highly competitive. If I'm your teammate and I draw a line in the sand, or I push somebody, or I say something, you're coming with me. And if you're not coming with me, we got a problem. And that's why we need that type of environment. We need those type of players, because we got guys that'll go, but everyone's not that person, and that's okay. It's totally fine. Like, you know, Peja wasn't going to go out of his way to do something, but I was.
Yeah.
So that meant he was, because this is where we learn in practice is like, who's in the foxhole with me? Who's willing to go? Like Bobby, just from being in practice, I already knew. I didn't really have to say too much. Like, if I nudge somebody, he's like right there, like, what? Like that's a thing, you guys, and it's an absolute must. That's what I see from Memphis. And I'll give you an example. Like when you see Dillon Brooks do those type of things, I don't necessarily think John Morant is that way. He'll do it sometimes, but he's always going to have Dillon's back. So that means that they're going there, and Dillon is going to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and everyone must come along. And guess what? We're also taking notes, because whoever doesn't come along,
Oh man, I watched Dillon Brooks and I'm like, I'm ready to go. Like it fires me up. It does. I mean,
absolutely.
Because I don't look at Dillon Brooks as like, hey, he's an all-star level player. But damn, dude. I mean,
and Deuce was annoyed by Dillon Brooks like 2 weeks ago. He was like, he just annoys me. And then he's like, slowly like, I have a crush on Dillon Brooks. Just look how hard, because you realize it's annoying when he's not on your team. It's annoying when you're playing against him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when that's your teammate, that's the caliber of teammate that you want to play with.
Yeah. He's really, you guys, he's steadily moving up as one of the better two-way players in the NBA. Like if you give me 5 names, he might already be on the list as a two-way player, because he's showing the offensive side of it. It was interesting because when I first got back here, I stand on the side of the court where the guys are working out and whatever. And, one of the assistant coaches for Memphis, God, I can't think of his name right now. He was a head coach here.
He was a head coach here?
Went to Indiana.
Keith Smart. Keith Smart.
Yeah. I don't know why I remember his name yesterday. I couldn't. But Keith goes, hey, Doug, come here. I want you to talk to these guys. And it was Dillon Brooks, and it was another player. And he said, I just want you to talk about competing and defense and what it means to be a player. And we probably had a 6 or 7 minute conversation, and to just watch Dillon, like he was listening, like, and I appreciate that, because like your coach sees something in you and he wants you to get some information. But once I give you that information, what are you going to do with that information? It's important. Now to watch him compete on that level. And the other thing, you guys, is like everybody wants to be friends. Yeah. Like there are no friends when you get inside that. Like we could still be cool afterwards. And if not, like if it's me or you, it's always me. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just this is how it goes. And they have a team full of those guys. And to be honest, like I would agree with you, Deuce, I don't see that much more talent than the Sacramento Kings. I see a different mentality than the Sacramento Kings.
Today's podcast with Doug Christie is presented by our friends at manscaped.com. Yes, I've been talking about them for a long time now.
Long time.
I talked to them before they were even partners on this podcast.
That is true.
Well, Father's Day is coming up. So what's a good gift for Dad? I don't know what to get him. Look, you need to make sure your dad's cool. What's going to make him cool and hip is to, I don't know, have some self-care and self-love in his life and
there you go.
Trim downstairs. Also, you got the weed whacker for the ears too. Like, dads, they've got the long hair out of their nose.
And you can also tell your dad to smell good and get him the cologne. Like, there's a lot of different, you don't have to just say, hey, here's a ball shaver. There's so many things you can do at manscaped.com.
Yes, but definitely get him the Lawnmower 4.0. It's new and improved. The 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to the advanced skin-safe technology. Let me translate that for you. If you go down there with a normal razor, there is a hazardous risk down there. You could cut something open and, we're going to the hospital.
Blood everywhere.
Yes. We do not want a crime scene in the bathroom. That's why you use the Lawnmower 4.0. It also gives you the ability to turn on the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Also with the Lawnmower 4.0, even allows you to customize your trim through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 through 4. So right now, get 20% off and free shipping by using our promo code DMP20 at checkout at manscaped.com. The best part about it is you'll get your dad an awesome product or yourself an awesome product. And in addition to that, it helps the Deuce and Mo podcast. So you get something.
Win.
We get, it's awesome. It's a win. Manscaped.com, DMP20 at checkout. You'll save 20% off and free shipping, Morgan.
I don't have balls, but if I did have balls, I'd only shave my balls with Manscaped.
The podcast is also presented by our friends over at East Sac Fitness. Dude, Morgan, we just started on Sunday this 90-day challenge.
Yes, we did.
Which
2
is
days
just
in.
basically a way to just get you on the right path going forward.
Health journey, right?
Yes, the health journey is just to get consistency. I think you got to build routine. And so back at the gym at ESAC Fitness, the 90-day challenge for those who care, it's just making sure to get some sort of workout in.
Eating clean.
And
drinking water.
We're going no alcohol.
Oh, yeah, and no alcohol. But that's what's been so great, too, is that now waking up to go to ESAC Fit and having the discipline to just have that in my everyday habit and routine now that things are coming back to normal. It's been so great. And we just talk about self-care, I feel like, a lot on this podcast because men do not talk about that enough. But obviously, this gym, it's for everyone, and it's all about self-care and health.
Yeah, community gym. They support the Deuce and Mo podcast. They have so many classes, a ton of space now that things are open back up. You got all the weights you need if you like to clang and bang like Deuce Mason and Dwayne Johnson. But you also have spin classes if you want to get the cardio. You got a little namaste yoga if you need to feel good and stretch like I do because I have no flexibility. So make sure to check out eSacFitness.com. We appreciate their support of the Deuce and Mo podcast.
And Doug, Keith Smart had you talk to Dylan Brooks.
So does he take full credit for Dylan Brooks's?
That's one, but two, I want Doug to talk to this Sacramento Kings team. You look at you are such you understand the game so well. And I think how you speak about the game, how you always try and get better and learn more about the game. You've always just understood it. And I just think that a former player like you would be so good for this Sacramento Kings team to talk to. And I know you get your little touches here and there, but I just hearing that you spoke to Dylan Brooks like that, he soaked in that information. I picture a guy like Tyrese Halliburton talking to you and soaking in that information and taking it out on the floor. Can you do that for me? Thanks.
No, and I'm not taking credit for Dylan Brooks. Dylan's probably like, I don't even remember having that conversation. That's fine. But you guys, it's just interesting. The one thing, and I don't see this as much, and I'm not around the team as much, but the one thing that we did so much is we talked basketball, and we talked about things and what we saw and how we saw it and the timing of it, because timing is everything. Like many times I'll watch a guy catch a ball and the guy's already cut. And I'm like, you just missed the whole opportunity. Like you got it. It's almost, and Coachy would say this, Coach Pete Carrillo, he would say, sometimes it's better to be late. Like, let it sit for a second. Make them a little nervous. Because to be honest with you, as a defender, two things happen. The closer you get to the basket, the more hyperactive I get. But the more you pause and wait, the more hyperactive I get. Because I'm like, what the hell are you doing, bro? Let's go. Like already, let's do it. And the ones who are really good, take Kobe, for instance, would catch the ball and he would almost kind of like wait and he'd look and then all of a sudden, bang. And it's about catching you off guard. And I think like you see Damian Lillard, you see Jokic, you see some of these guys who do that. But that is, it's a rehearsal. And I used to say the King show is coming to town because it was a show and we worked on it and we rehearsed it. And it's like, no, just one more second. Just hold up. Let me see you, and then go. Like those are the type of conversations that it's a must. Like they gotta play chess.
It fired me up to hear that Tyrese was back in the gym like the day after the season. Like, yeah, I think I've talked to you about this before, that when you weren't making the playoffs, your mindset was, no, I got to get back in because my goal is to play through June. And not every player has a mentality like that. And, Halliburton's obviously coming off an injury, but to hear that type of thing, it gives me, because I've seen the glimpses of that fire, and I don't know if it's a Dylan Brooks level of fire. It could be different. It could be great, but he definitely has a love for the game. Kind of like you were talking about, that I could see it. And that's what excites me about him.
And it should excite all Kings fans, you guys, because I think there's two sides to an athlete, and kind of talk to Webb about this. There's on the court and there's off the court. This kid's spectacular in both venues. Like his consciousness, his social activism, his willingness to, okay, we'll put that aside. His willingness to jump in front of the camera when the Kings lose by 25 and have a real conversation is something that is to be commended, because not everybody is willing to do that. Like, I'm mad, I don't feel like talking to anybody, whatever, I ain't got nothing to say. He looks right in the camera and he's like, we play like crap tonight, and it starts with me. And then he's getting closer to the camera and I'm just like, yes sir, my God, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, own it, like get in it, because as a competitor, it's going to raise your level in many ways. When I look at him, and you and I have talked about this, Deuce, at the arena, there's so many different nuances to the game. Because the one thing that I like the most, you guys, is that, and I compared him to D'Angelo Russell when we were talking, is D'Angelo kind of plays at his own pace. You can't really speed him up. A really good passer, like totally underrated type of passer, reads the game. When I look at Tyrese, I see the even probably a little more athletic than D'Angelo is, but his shot, he can knock it down. He's got range on it. The mid-range game is there. The ability to read defenses, the ability to read not the guy in front of him, but he's looking at 2 and 3 other players. Like, that is a talent, and he can make all those passes and the floater, and as a leader. And what kind of showed you that he can be a leader is like Luke. The first time I saw this, I can't remember the game, I was just like, Luke really trusts you, huh? Because it was like real late in the game and he was the inbounder, and I just went, oh damn. Because I know it's a little thing, but it's a big thing, because what I'm doing is I'm saying, here's the basketball, make the right decision.
Yep.
And that is big for a rookie. And then to watch him continuously and consistently make the right decision is impressive. That's the game. Now, if he just addresses the body part and starts to get stronger and all of that, he wants to be great. Like, the combination is there. And I agree with you, Deuce and Mo. Like, Kings fans should be really excited about this young player.
The playoffs have been so fun to start, Doug. And I don't know what it is, but we talk about like, hey, get mixing it up. We're not friends on the court. I feel like almost in every single game, there's been a little dust up. There's this.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the fans being back and it adds a little more juice to the games. But I don't remember a time where I saw consistently pretty much every game the level of competitiveness and fire in the playoffs. And is it because maybe that there's no clear-cut favorite and we haven't seen it last year? I don't know what it is, but what's jumped out to you so far?
That is jumped off the screen. I first of all, the fact that, like, looking at MSG, and I played at Madison Square Garden, and looking at the fans and the organ player, and I'm just like, oh my God, man, I've missed you guys. It's so good to see you. I'm so happy that you're back. The competitive nature, I think, which is weird when you think about it, because, like, if we think about teams that aren't in the playoffs or teams that aren't that good, like, if you don't come with that, that's probably why you're not there. And when you're looking at these guys consistently, whether it's LeBron and CP3, like, we're buddies, we're friends. Not right now, and I'm okay with that. And I hope that you are, because we're going to test our friendship right now. And if we're really friends, we'll be friends afterwards, because, like, I'm here for a purpose, and that is to win. The fact that, like, we saw Portland and Denver last night, like Campazzo and just people, irritants, and getting after people. And that is what playoff basketball is all about, you guys. That's why if you don't do it, you're not involved.
Do you remember anything from your first playoff game ever?
Ooh.
You want me to make a Deuce joke and talk about that was 50 years ago, such a long time ago? Oh my God, you had hair, kind of thing?
Yeah. No, you know what? So my first playoff game, if I am not mistaken, was Charles Barkley's first playoff game in Phoenix.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I saw the stats the other night. He played pretty well because he's Charles. But we actually, I was with the Lakers. We put Eldon Campbell on him, which it was tough because Eldon's long and athletic. Charles is shorter but more powerful. And we went up. Paul Westphal, rest in peace. The great Paul Westphal was the head coach, and we beat those guys the first 2 games in Phoenix, and that's where he had the famous quote of, "We're going to beat them 3 in a row, and everyone will say it was a great series." And we had our opportunities back at the Great Western Forum, but we were unable to pull it out. But yeah, that was my first go around was in Phoenix. I can't remember. I had a couple points. I think actually one of my cards is Danny Ainge and Dan Marley trailing me like Deuce would be trailing me when I was dunking the basketball. Yes.
I was curious too, just from that first play, like if you remembered anything about it, like mentally just being so juiced, because we saw a lot of playoff debuts over the weekend, right? You saw Morant to someone like Julius Randle, who had a really tough playoff debut, and and you just sense like different guys handle it differently. They're ultra juiced, and I can't imagine being placed in an environment where you haven't played in front of fans really for well over a year. You're in a playoff game, and the first playoff game, there's 15,000 fans. You feel that.
Like
I have to imagine.
Shit, I have the ball, and I just want to go dunk it kind of.
I think today's player is more advanced in this area. They're very, like even when I watch them go through their training, like they've come to understand that why shoot these other shots? A lot of them shoot the exact shots that they are going to get in the game and come off the pick and roll, get the guy on your hip, snake dribble, pull up, and then they get in the game and shoot them. And there's a calmness, but I would agree that you have to be juiced when you run out in the Garden and 15,000 people who have not been there for I don't know how long are just losing their crap and just going nuts. It's been impressive to see. I'm happy for the NBA. I think that this was surely needed. I'm hoping that by the end, to be honest with you, like even 10, 12,000, it seems like 20,000 people. It doesn't even matter. It looks nuts. It sounds nuts. And that environment, I would even say for some of our guys like Tyrese and De'Aaron, like go to a playoff game, like get the vibe. And because once you got that vibe, you never want to let it go.
That's a good point, Doug. That's so true. Is there a team right now that's popping off to you so far that you're like, oh, I like what they're doing, like they can have a deep run, or is it too early to tell?
No, I really like what I'm a Drew Holiday fan. I think this kid is special, man. Like two-way player, next level. I think that Milwaukee Bucks team, the fact that you are coming down to the end of the games and your MVP, 2-time MVP, is like your third option, that's pretty damn good. This is, it goes Middleton, Drew Holiday, then Giannis. That is a team. First of all, for Coach Bud, they have to win. If they don't, I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be there. But that is a team that jumps out as something to watch. The Western Conference, I could see them winning it all. I don't think that right now who it is, because ultimately they have to find their way, meaning like the Lakers, if it's going to be them, they have to get their rhythm about them because they've been out for so long. The Clippers, similar to the Milwaukee Bucks, they have to fight their way through the first series with the Dallas team that should have beat them last year had not Porzingis got hurt. And Milwaukee has to go through the Heat, which has been their nemesis. Like if the Clippers can do that, all of a sudden they probably found their swagger and found their way. So, and then you take Philadelphia. That's a team. I don't know that they have enough shooting to do it, but they needed medicine, and Doc brought it.
Do you think?
I like it. The Doc.
You saw I did that?
Great bit. That's definitely true. God, do you think that LeBron is gonna kind of figure it out? And I feel like that's such a dumb question to ask, because it's like, yeah, track record, he always figures it out. But something seems different since coming back from this injury, not having
which one? The massive eye injury that he had, right? The tough eye injury. He saw 3 rims, Doug.
I'm talking about obviously the high ankle sprain, and he just doesn't look as aggressive or explosive. Again, this is only 2 like technically postseason games, the playing game, and then how they played in that first game. So yeah, I don't know. Do you see him kind of bouncing back?
I mean, I don't. So first of all, Mo, I don't know how Deuce says that stuff. He's got CM Punk behind him. He's got the Iron Sheik behind him. I mean, you've obviously never been poked in the eye. If you've been poked in the eye, you would understand that it can get bad.
Doug,
anyway,
he acted like his eye was ripped out. I mean, come on. Wait, he saw 3 rims. You don't believe that.
Time out. And Deuce one time got a hot pepper in his eye, and he thought he was gonna have to go to the hospital, die. Someone had to get milk for him to put in his eyeball. So trust me,
probably vitamin D. He was not going with soy milk or buttermilk. So okay, so your eye almost gets ripped out because of a pepper. He gets he's coming down. A guy rakes him in the eye, and you're going to question, like you saw him get poked in the eye. You're going to question whether he shot 3 rims or not. I don't know.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying.
He made the shot.
Yeah.
Now, can I?
Yes.
Okay. Can I address Mo? Thank you. It is a little different. Something is I think off. I think like when you see JaVale McGee in Denver, like that was a big loss for the Lakers. I don't think they understood his hands, his defensive ability, and those type of things. And right now, it sounds like, and it looks like Anthony Davis isn't the same Anthony Davis. Like, do they have the pieces? Yes, but are the pieces a little maybe dinged up? Now, when we say that, like if they come out tonight and between the 2 of them, they go for like 60, I think they'll be fine, and they'll work it out. LeBron is notorious for losing game 1s, kind of doing the Anderson Silva in round 1, working his way around, and then just bang. I don't know that happens. I think we got to see if CP3 is really compromised. I've had that exact thing that he had. The arm goes numb. It's a bad thing. He'll probably have a knot there for the rest of his life where the nerve. It's a thing. But I don't know. For me in this one, Mo, and I'm not taking the easy way out. I have to watch till this next game because I'm not sure. Because if you think about this, they were still in the game, and those guys played that bad.
Right.
That's true.
That kind of says to me like, okay, well, they're probably not going to play that bad. And if they do play that bad, well, of course, they're done. It's a wrap. Yeah.
That's why I was really impressed with Milwaukee's game 1 win over Miami. They didn't shoot the ball well from 3. They missed 12 free throws, and they found a way to win. And then you look at last night, what they did, which was, I think a lot of people slept on Milwaukee this year. And it's starting to click. They've got the depth, the defense. I like them a lot. Doug, before you go, I put out to some fans if they had any questions for you. So I'm going to ask you a couple of them. This is from Leezy. He says, ask Doug which current player in the league reminds him of himself.
Ooh, that's a good one. Dylan Brooks is a guy, plays both ends of the floor. I like those type of players. Your Jimmy Butler, your Drew Holiday. That's going to D you up. He can play offense. Many times he sacrifices for the team, and just like he plays the game. And our very own Tyrese Halliburton, I think in many ways, is a guy who, can he go get 30? Yeah. Will he probably give you 16 to 20? Yeah. But then he's going to do everything on the court, stick the best player. And that's probably where I'd go.
That instinct.
That's a good one. LB Funk says, talking about Luke Walton's offense, and do you believe that with Monty, they will take a look at acquiring talent to run an offense with more movement and back cuts, maybe like a Princeton offense or something similar to what this person says Golden State ran when he was there? Well, the Kings ran a lot of that stuff. But do you think that the Kings do they have the personnel to run an offense a little more, just implement some of the stuff that you guys did in the past, or they don't really have those pieces?
It's a good one, you guys. I'm hoping that we get there.
Yeah.
What we don't have is we don't have big guys that can pass like that.
Right.
And that's a big thing. That's why even when you see David Adelman, who is now in Denver on the bench, and he has the ability to call his dad, and his dad gives him gems.
And Rick
and
loves
the reason,
Jokic.
oh man,
Right.
I like Jokic is the perfect type of player, because especially now the way you want to spread the floor, if you can get a guy that's at the 3-point line and he can shoot it, but he can put it on the floor, and then everyone's back screening and moving and cutting, and he can make all the passes, like it's just next level. And it's odd that you asked that, because I was thinking about that. Could we put Tyrese in that position to where maybe it's not a big guy, maybe it's one of your smalls that allow them to do it? Or that might be where Monty has to figure it out, understanding the passing and cutting and how to play the game. One of the biggest things you guys that I saw this year, and I'll give Steve Kerr credit for this, is if you guys ever watch, I don't know if you watch Golden State, but I watched them play. And in the beginning of the season, I crap you not, they were actually running into each other because they didn't understand the nuances and the timing. And by the end of the season, they were playing at a really high level because they obviously had the time to work on it and figure things out. So this is where I'm at with the Kings, that I'm hoping we see that type of offense.
I really like that. And yeah, and you watch Golden State, it's just all about the reps, right? Like getting that down, practicing, just like you were talking about early on with your team back in the day. It was every day, it's first started practice, backdoor cuts, passing here, passing here. And I like the idea of Tyrese Halliburton being that guy, because you trust him that he's going to find you. And that's what's so great, obviously, about Jokic, because how crappy is it when you're a cutter and you are working your ass off to get open, doing a backdoor cut, whatever it is, and no one is getting you the ball each time down the court?
You know what's funny about that, Mo, is Deuce asked earlier what was one of Webb's biggest gifts. And I'll be honest with you, the other teams that I was on, when I cut through, I'd pass and I would cut through. The key is I never cut through with intention. You know why? Because I never got the ball back. And then all of a sudden I cut through with Webb, and I was like, oh, damn, the ball's here. Oh my God. So now when I cut through with purpose. I'm trying to get open because he's actually going to pass it and I can get money. So that's a big thing.
Yeah.
One last one. Drew asked, can you ask him if he hears all the noise from the fans about getting him in some kind of coaching/mentoring capacity, and if he ever considers a life outside of broadcasting, or if that's just what he wants to do with the rest of his career? That's from Drew.
Yeah, I hear it, you guys, but obviously out of respect, you guys know me. I'm never, that's just kind of not how I'm built. Like, if that is something that is for me, it'll be for me. Would I like to do it? Yeah, I would. I love basketball. I eat, sleep, and drink it. I talk about it. I try to continue to study on it and continue to figure it out. So if it's something that somebody calls me in and is like, look, we want to have a conversation about this, I'm fully for it. But right now, I love what I'm doing. I enjoy it. It's as you guys heard me talk to Webb, in many ways, you guys, it's therapeutic. The pain that you feel when you go through something like we went through is, it's weird because you can't do anything about it. And normally in life, you don't come across something that you can't do something about, because it was in a time capsule of physical being. Well, that physical being is gone. So I have to live with it in the head. So I try to do that. So for me, like radio, coming on your guys' podcast, everything that I do with the Kings on television is it's a blessing. It truly is. I thank the Kings. I thank the Kings fans for the opportunity and the platform. And if anything like that ever happens, it will. If it doesn't, I'm cool.
That's why you need someone like me to be your Paul Heyman. That's why I hype it up. And I would tell the Kings, Monty McNair, Luke Walton, you pick up the phone right now and you hit up my client, Doug Christie, because he can help take you to new heights. And if you don't do it, someone else will, because this guy knows basketball. He understands how it works. So back up the Brinks truck. Hire this man.
Look what he did to Dillon Brooks.
Yes, this is my client, turned Dillon Brooks into one of the best two-way players. Just kidding. Doug, seriously, I appreciate you spending some time with us.
You're awesome.
It's always good to talk hoops with you. We always learn something. You're the best, man.
I appreciate you guys, man. Be well.
That's the one and only Doug Christie.